Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Not Defined by Endo with me, Teniola. My guests today are from Mendu, a community created for women and by women. Mendu is a woman of color founded company, a space that helps you do wellness in a way that works for you. They teach you to take out all the unappealing parts of therapy and keep only the parts that make you feel good. The goal is to make investing in mental and emotional well-being as vibrant and fun as the women they engage. Join me as I welcome Kayla, a creative writer and publisher, and Regina, a therapist, to the show today. Remember that I am not a medical professional, and everything I share on this podcast is to inspire and empower. Always speak to a medical professional before making any major changes to your diet or lifestyle. And with that said, sit back, relax, and let's get right to it. So thank you very much for accepting to speak to me on the podcast. And I would really like to know a bit more about who you both are and what you do.
So I'm Kayla, Kay, and I am a creative writer and I work in publishing. So a lot of my work focuses on is shaping our own narrative and sort of accepting stories that we tell ourselves and reshaping stories that we should not tell ourselves and really just listening to the outside world in ways that help us and really just creating our own narratives. So I got into Mendu because we're best friends and we've had a lot of conversations over the years about mental health. We just realized that there wasn't anything out there that spoke to our experiences as women of color. So we just thought there was a great space to get in there, and we didn't really think it would be it would grow as it has, because we didn't think that, I don't know, if you don't see yourself reflected in the existing media and the existing narrative, then you sort of think that maybe you're an anomaly, your condition or your experience isn't valid. And we found that that's not at all true. And we wanted to create a space for people to share their own stories.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm Regina. I basically qualified as a therapist 2 years ago, and then I also work sometimes doing sort of mindfulness sessions and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, like Kayla mentioned, I think we just sort of, we've been friends for a long time, and then we've sort of grown together over time. And for me, I obviously struggle with mental health in certain ways related to being a person of color in my own ways. But I think I also just spent many years as a caretaker for my mom, and I lost her to sort of mental health distress last year. And I think that was just something that I think propelled both of us to kind of say enough is enough in a way. There really needs to be a way that we can talk about issues that are specific to us, because we kind of feel like, you know, self-care, mental health, all of this stuff is very much created by, you know, a sort of mainstream, maybe sort of more Eurocentric Western community. And that's fine. But I think that we need to kind of say, okay, we have particular experiences and there needs to be a space for us to talk about the stuff that's particular to us also, I think. So, you know, while all that stuff is great, we just think that there needs to be more, essentially.
Yeah, correct. Tell us a bit more about Mendu and what exactly you do and what your mission is.
Sure. So, I mean, in a way, our mission is pretty simple. Well-being for us. Yeah. So just people who look like us, basically. So people of color.
Women of color specifically.
Yeah. And then I think in terms of what we do, so right now we do mostly community events, which are fun. We basically want to make self-care a fun thing. So we sort of try to take away sort of this like very serious edge that it has sometimes, and then particularly Kayla, who's a creative one, makes it fun.
Yeah, so we sort of thought about traditional methods of talking about feelings, talking about mental health conditions. So we thought about like group therapy, which seems like a very stigmatized environment. You know, you don't want to say, I'm going to like have a group therapy session, and no one's like, oh, that's so fun.
Yeah,
exactly. So we wanted to reshape the image of just sort of a group therapy thing, and we don't call it group therapy. It's not really that. We try to make it fun, invite different different events like vision boarding. We do a lot of journaling, like try to incorporate all of these things that are sort of now in the more contemporary quote unquote self-care sphere, but make it more specific to women of color and create spaces that are inviting, destigmatized, and really friendly and effective. And we've really succeeded in creating a community around that. I mean, there's always more to do, obviously, and we want to keep expanding, but we really we feel like every event we have has been a learning experience for everyone, and that's really what we're there for, just to create community, create connections, and just really grow in ourselves.
That's right. And then beyond that, essentially, we realized that while it's great to have events, people are busy, you know, like people are busy. They don't always, I mean, we don't always feel like getting out of bed. So, I mean, I don't blame other people for not wanting that. So essentially we figured out that we try to put more stuff online, but not sort of in the traditional, like, oh, you're doing like online CBT or whatever. We're like, we want to do things in ways that are fun. And then, so we did more audio clips of things that people can do to be nice to themselves, to be kind to themselves. And then essentially from our conversations with our community and, you know, what we believe ourselves is that essentially we figured that, you know, the fact that there are spaces that are not welcoming for us, it's not just a result of us and what we think, you know, there's sort of other people creating that, you know, perhaps environment that can feel unfriendly. And so we really want to help build allyship, help educate on how to communicate in more culturally aware ways. So that's what we're about.
Oh, love the mission, honestly. You mentioned something about audio online, things that you can do online. And one of them, I guess, is audio journaling. So how does that work exactly? And why do you think that helps?
So there's been a lot of research about journaling in general, how it's therapeutic, how even if you have long-term medical conditions, it can be improved by really focusing on journaling and creating a bit of journaling. It's journaling is really spending time with yourself and really laying out your life and your experience, and it's validating and it is meditative. So we thought that instead of just handing someone a notebook and being like, go wild, like just have fun with journaling, which I do think is journaling is good in itself. But we thought that creating specific prompts that were particular and really relevant to experiences that are maybe more common to women of color, people of color, we thought that would be really helpful to have to just really to start thinking about different questions, and also to educate our community about things that we experience every day, but we may not have a word for, or may not have a way to deal with it. So one is like microaggressions, but a lot of people don't know how to explain it or really just put your finger on exactly what it was that really pissed you off, and so it's also just giving people the vocabulary to express their own experiences. I think that's important, you know, just having the words and having the framework to sort of think about your own experiences, and then that sort of decreases the stress and the distress you're experiencing, because instead of being like, am I crazy for overreacting, you're like, no, there's a word for what I experienced, there's a word for what's happening, and it sort of gives you more control of your reaction and how you can proceed. So we thought just forming a platform that has a bunch of content that helps people do this, and uses audio clips to journal. We thought it was really valuable. So
and we also, on a more practical level, I think it also sort of happened because I think it can be hard to figure out what you're going to journal about. So Kayla had this journaling book that we both really liked, but I was like, gosh, it's so expensive, so can I borrow yours instead? And she was like, no. So we were like, I mean, I have a journal, so I feel like if the prompts are online, I can do that. So that's sort of also part of it.
And so we just started creating our own prompts as well. So ones that are more relevant to our experiences.
These prompts or these journals, are they online, like on your website or your Instagram page? How do people access that?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So we did sort of a very quick test run with some content, which we got some feedback on. And, you know, we sort of wanted to push ahead with that because we were really overwhelmed by the feedback. We so appreciate everyone who wrote a comment like, you know, it's time, because it really is. But I think the best way to sign up right now is to sign up to our newsletter. That's when we're going to release sort of our new version of it, because we did a very quick test run to see what works and whatnot, but now we're sort of working on a more sort of full-on library. So that's probably the best way.
You can, so it's on mendu.co.uk, which is our website, or you can go to Insight Timer, and it's also Mendu, Mendu, with an umlaut over the U, like a smiley face, which we're really happy about. And there's a lot of content there that you can access for free, and if you leave feedback, it's really helpful, because we do read all of it and try to incorporate the comments into our next material. So
that's great. Well done, guys. Many women in my community are always in pain, like a lot of the time, and they're always basically trying to survive the next day, which I would say means that most of us are basically in survival mode. So you guys mentioned something about how to understand the difference between being in survival mode and thriving. And my question now is, how do we do that? And how do we know the difference? And how do we go from one to the other?
Yeah, I mean, that's surviving versus thriving is a thing that we've had on our minds for a really long time. But again, it's hard to put it into words what it actually means. Surviving, it's sort of like surviving sort of feels like you're constantly on edge, and you're just trying to figure out what your next step is to stay alive, and that's that's not any way to live. And I totally hear that. And I mean, the idea of just being in constant physical pain or near constant physical pain is just, I mean, health is wealth, right? Like we have to feel blessed when we don't have it, and when we do have it, we have to keep going. I think it's like physical kindness to oneself, like taking a long bath or doing any sort of meditation or yoga if possible. I mean, that it is, they're very tied, aren't they? Like physical well-being and mental well-being. And I mean, it sort of sounds like journaling is a panacea for everything, but I think that there have been studies about long-term, like even like physical pain conditions, where just writing through the pain is actually really therapeutic and really does help. So I always sort of push journaling first, but also just getting to a space of acceptance and not trying to say that your body is broken or your body is fighting you or something is wrong with your body, but understanding that this is something that you are going through and it is making you stronger, and it happens for a reason. I think that thriving it's not by anyone else's standards. So you have to be like, you know what, like maybe my body isn't doing what I want it to be doing, and maybe a lot of other bodies aren't doing what my body is doing, but I am a special blessed creature, and I should be able to accept myself. It's acceptance without being like it's not acceptance saying like, oh yeah, I'm okay with this, but just accepting it. Nothing's ever perfect.
I mean, I don't know, maybe we can speak a little bit to sort of one of our recent experiences of it, because obviously it's on a feeling level. So it obviously not quite the same, but I think one of the times when we recently felt like we were thriving was, we were really speaking our truth. We were kind of saying that as people of color, there are specific experiencing, and we sort of started talking about that. And I think we were looking to start this project and looking for some advice, just because we hadn't done this before, and we were looking for people who maybe had a bit more experience starting a project. And we went around asking, and we got a lot of hate, basically people saying, this is not real, you're imagining this, no one else feels this, there's no market for this, because it's just the two of you basically making up this stuff, and it's not real for other people. And I think for us, just there was a lot of hate, and obviously it was our truth, it was our real experience. It kind of felt a little bit like, sort of heart racing, hard to breathe. I think the two of us were just sort of trying to figure out, how do we continue another day? And I think the difficult thing was then, okay, we're doing something difficult, but we still want some enjoyment in that experience, probably is the right way to put it. Or, some sort of, feeling like we could speak our truth without sort of, feeling like someone had a hand to our throat. And that wasn't how it felt, basically, because it felt very invalidating that, this is our real experience that we feel, and someone was saying, no, that's imaginary. And so I think in that situation for us, thriving felt like, okay, maybe people are getting to a point where maybe people are saying it, but because it's our truth, we're going to keep on going no matter what, and we're going to enjoy this journey with people who are a part of our tribe, as opposed to, listening to the outside world in that.
Well, you know what they say, it's only crazy until you do it.
That's a good point.
Well done. So how were you able to basically protect your mental health and peace throughout that process?
Oh God, it took a lot. Really, it was really hard to have a bunch of people who are in positions of power say like your experience is not valid and you have nothing to offer, and then also saying like there's not a lot of money in this, as if like the only way it's valid is if you can make money off of it, which is it's so dark, right? Like,
that's the thing, that what people see as success, and I think it's kind of been built into our DNAs, all of us. So we have to actually actively change that way of thinking, that money is not the only measure of success. Like changing lives, reaching out to people, helping to change the narrative is part of success. So it doesn't have to be, oh, this is how much is it bringing in. I can imagine what you guys went through.
It was, God, it just took a lot of, I think it really helped that we had our friendship before getting into this, because we've had experiences, like bad experiences at work before, and it's a lot easier when we had a wider community that we were trying to build, but we had each other. And I think that really it helps to it helps a lot to have good friends, and someone who's like has your back when everyone else is shouting you down. And I guess that was really what kept us going, because it was like, even if right now we're in survival mode, like together we're like building each other up, and that is like, I guess, thriving, just like having a person or having people who you can turn to, having God, if if that's what you're to say like, this is pretty bad right now, but like I have to keep going, and redefining what was happening. Instead of saying that we're victims that are getting shot down by the establishment, we're saying we are pioneers who are going to places where people haven't gone before, and that's always difficult. It's always more difficult to cut your own path and just go on the trodden path, right? So that's
I think that's why it's so important that you, for instance, have a community that sort of shares that experience, because then I think it really starts with the whole experiences of going from surviving to thriving. I think it starts with saying, hey, what we're experiencing is real, basically, and not sort of, oh, we're imagining this, it's not real, and then wondering why do I feel this if no one else is feeling this, because actually that's not the case.
I think that's specifically true with conditions or experiences that affect women. I think a lot of time we're told we're crazy. So like endometriosis, like a lot of the time there's like if you look at the amount of money that goes into researching endometriosis, it's like nothing compared to all the other things, because it's a women's disease. And so it just, you have to realize that, like this is bad, but like if men are telling you your pain isn't real, your experience isn't real, it's not valid, you can't let that stand. You have to reclaim that. I am experiencing it, and I'm real. So.
Absolutely. So I think, when I think of sort of going from surviving to thriving, I definitely think that it starts with validating that it's real, and it's a long journey. For us, at least, it was, and I think part of it is sort of saying it's real. Part of it is just seeking help to sort of like have tools to actually talk about this in like deep ways, because I think that a lot of times the normal conversation patterns we have, it's sort of almost, we try to gloss over like the deep stuff, the stuff that you're sort of feeling on a gut level. And I think it's pretty important to be in spaces where you have tools to talk about that. And then something that I think we feel a lot is that there's definitely a need for a lot of boundaries.
Definitely.
Not everyone gets to be on the inside with all the details and whatnot. Shoot it and pull it apart without the right knowledge. Like not everyone deserves to be and has earned to be on the inside, basically. Some people, you need to keep them at a distance, so to speak.
Definitely. Wow, really great answers. So apart from journaling and boundaries, what other like creative therapeutic tools can help you thrive in the face of difficulty?
I'm a big I have a bunch of like weird habits and weird hobbies, so I like getting out.
Those are the best.
I love birds, and I like bird watching, and I think that is getting outside, and getting outside of wherever you live. Like even if you live in the country, just getting outside of your normal routine and breaking out of that routine, because we sort of are on a treadmill always, just going. And I think stepping back, stepping into nature, stepping into a space that is unfamiliar, is so, it's so rewarding, and it's so eye-opening, and you see things that you wouldn't see, and it's just little bits of beauty that remind you that like this is a good world, no matter all the stuff that's happening on the news or inside of your head or your body in whatever way, like that there's goodness. So I recommend like it's something from Julia Cameron. She's I don't know if you know her. She wrote The Artist's Way, and it's this amazing book that's all about, it's not just about artists, it's about making your life something that is creative, in the sense of like actually creating, not necessarily like painting or whatever. And so she has this thing called the artist date, and it's taking like a night, an evening, if you can afford it, or like even half an hour every week to just do something that you wouldn't normally do. And I think that's such a valuable time for taking for yourself, because a lot of your time is taken away by earning money or caretaking or doing whatever else that's on your plate. So I think that, and then also doing creative things. So even if you don't think that you are an artist or a writer or a singer, you like it's just, there's no other time, right, in your life. Like you're going to have to live your life anyway, and it's a beautiful opportunity. And people say, well, I can't be a professional guitarist, so why would I ever play guitar? Like, why would I ever, like, like I won't be that good in 10 years. It'll take me 10 years to get this good at something. And it's like those 10 years will pass anyway, so you might as well just try something that you want to try. So just taking risks, I think, and doing things that you tell yourself or other people tell yourself that you can't do. I think that's a great like F you to the world.
Yeah.
I think
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Is there any other thing, Regina?
I think for me, it's like the little things make the biggest difference. Like, just taking that moment sometimes, if it's sort of a really tense moment, to actually just go outside and get a fresh breath of fresh air. I think that makes a huge difference. Or, even if it's just walking around the building I'm in, I feel like that makes a difference, to just like take a moment to sort of step away actually, and sort of allow myself to step away. Because I think for me, a lot of the times I feel like I'm in the situation and I should be productive and do as much as possible.
That's me as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's almost like allowing myself to say, no, that's like not the most productive way, I think is the biggest thing. But I think I'm not as creative as Kayla, but I always try to do little things basically. And I try to figure out ways, like, for instance, I'm not that artistic, but I do enjoy, for instance, pictures and vision boarding and stuff like that. Or, I really also like meditating and yoga, which is probably more the traditional stuff rather than creative. But then obviously writing my own thoughts is my own way of sort of having a creative outlet, even though it's not traditionally creative. So I think, for me, it's such a blessing to be around Kayla, who is more creative and I can see what she's doing. And I think that's why it's so important to have other people around you in a community, because it's a constant struggle. But like Kayla said, it's about learning also and allowing yourself to learn. So I think mostly it's allowing myself to do that and allowing myself the time to try to do those things, whether it's reading or, watching a good movie, all those things, taking a bath, all those things that allows me to step away and sort of have a moment when I'm not thinking about everything that is going on. It's just a moment to be and do something. I think that's really what creativity allows for, that's so special. And a little moment of magic is how I think about creativity. A little moment when something special comes to you, and it's a feeling. It's not sort of a thing per se. So I think that moment is what's important for everyone to have.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Kayla and Regina. This has been really interesting. So thank you so much for coming so much. So can you tell a bit more about your upcoming events and when and where is it taking place?
Sure. Our event is on February 21st. So it's a Friday. So it's like a little bit of sort of after the intense work week, a moment to sort of take a breath, basically. That's what we had in mind, so that you can take a breath and then really enjoy the weekend is what we're hoping for. So, we spoke a little bit about the moment what it felt like for us to feel like we were in survival mode. So one of the things we talked about is obviously sort of having the tools to speak in ways which are deep. And we sort of both realized in that moment, survival moment, that we sort of were very in that moment, and we needed someone else to sort of pull us out of it a little bit and see sort of like the outside. Because I think for anyone, when you're sort of stuck in that moment, it's just really hard, because for someone else, it might be very obvious how to have a deep conversation about it and sort of step out a little bit. But when you are the person in that moment, it's hard no matter who you are, basically.
Yeah, it's hard to get perspective.
Yeah.
We sort of reached out at the time to a woman who we didn't know at the time, but she's become one of our good friends. It's Just Jazz. She's Jazz. She's incredible. She's a life coach.
Yeah.
And she's something special. She honestly,
yeah,
she's so inspirational. She has a full-time job, but she's also like a part-time life coach. But she's so passionate and so talented at what she does, and she really brings out truth and power in every situation. She's I don't know, she's phenomenal. So she's going to be part of the event.
Yeah. So essentially, she helped us take a moment to sort of assess where are we right now versus where do we want to be. And then she really coached us through how are little things that we could start to step from where we are to where we want to be. It felt like she really gave us tools where we could start stepping towards that. Okay. And so I think that's really the experience that we want to share in a community that's of people of color, so that we can sort of talk about, for us, based on our experience, where we are, and then where we think we can be. And for people who understand that experience, hopefully we can sort of all talk about and help each other out. So, yes, it's at Red Bull Studio. So much love to Red Bull Social Innovation, who's been a huge part of helping us also, because I think the way they really helped us was that they were also a stepping stone for us to go from survival mode to thriving, basically, because they were the ones who really said, hey, if there are other people who feel the same way, it's not, basically. Yeah. And it felt huge for us at the time to have someone with their kind of weight to tell us that. So really grateful that they're giving us a space to sort of do this, essentially. So yeah,
30 until about 9:30 after work, and it's on Friday the 21st of February at Red Bull Studios in Covent Garden.
That's right. The tickets are two for £10, basically. Okay. Until the 16th, and then later on it's £10 per ticket.
All right.
And we would love someone from your community there, so we'll give giveaway for anyone who would like to join us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, ladies. It's been so lovely having Kayla and Regina on the show today. These women are doing a brilliant job of bringing women together and providing a safe community to thrive and grow. Make sure to register for their event coming up on the 21st of February at 6:30 p.m. in Red Bull Studios at Covent Garden. They are also providing 4 free tickets, so make sure you head over to my Instagram page at Not Defined by Endo to enter the giveaway. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love to know. Send me comments or even a DM through my Instagram or Facebook page. Share with your friends and subscribe to the podcast. If you also have any questions to ask or topics you would like me to discuss, feel free to shoot me an email on info@notdefinedbyendo.com. I love to hear from you all. All of this information is in the show notes. Until next time, my name is Teniola, and remember, you are not defined by Endo.